The small town of Ashwood had never known such horror. It was a place where everyone knew each other, where the days were predictable and the nights were serene. A scream ripped through the morning mist, shattering the peaceful quiet. It was a sound that would haunt the town for years to come. Old Mrs. Hathaway, on her daily walk, stumbled back from the horrifying sight in her rose garden. Her heart raced as she tried to comprehend the scene before her. A man lay sprawled among her prize-winning roses, his lifeless eyes staring vacantly at the sky. The serenity of the garden was forever shattered. His face, contorted in a silent scream, was a canvas of terror. It was as if his final moments were etched into his features, a permanent testament to his fear. This was not just death. It was a spectacle, a macabre message. The scene was a chilling tableau, carefully crafted to instill fear. The roses around him, once vibrant with life, were crushed and stained crimson. The beauty of the garden was marred by the violence that had taken place. A single, perfect red rose lay clutched in his hand. It was a stark contrast to the chaos around it, a symbol of something sinister. The air, heavy with the scent of dew and blooming flowers, now carried the metallic tang of blood. It was a scent that would linger in the memories of those who were there. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through the growing crowd that gathered at the edge of the garden. Whispers of dread and speculation filled the air. A killer walked among them, hidden in plain sight. The townspeople looked around, suspicion and fear in their eyes, knowing that one of their own was capable of such horror. News of the murder spread through Ashwood like wildfire. The tranquil town, where life had always moved at a slower pace, was now gripped by terror. The victim, identified as Daniel Miller, a well-liked local carpenter, had no known enemies. Who would commit such a gruesome act, and why? Theories ran rampant, whispers turning into accusations. The peaceful facade of Ashwood began to crack, revealing the suspicion and fear that lay beneath. The townsfolk, once so trusting, now eyed each other with suspicion. Fear was a disease, spreading through whispered conversations and worried glances. Unbeknownst to the terrified townsfolk, the roots of this evil ran deep, stretching back through the annals of Ashwood's dark history. The killer, a woman named Evelyn Thorne, was a specter haunting the fringes of Ashwood society, a ghostly presence that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to speak her name. Behind her unremarkable appearance, a storm of twisted emotions raged, a tempest that had been brewing for years, fueled by a lifetime of pain and suffering. A childhood marred by abuse and neglect had warped her perception of the world, twisting her into something dark and dangerous. The innocence of her youth had been stolen, replaced by a festering hatred. Evelyn found a perverse solace in inflicting pain, a twisted reflection of the suffering she had endured. Each act of violence was a release, a way to reclaim the power that had been taken from her. Each victim was a symbol, a representation of those who had wronged her in the past. Her vengeance was methodical, each strike calculated to deliver maximum torment. Her weapon of choice, a silver-plated scalpel, was a chilling reminder of her twisted psyche, a tool of precision used to inflict the maximum amount of pain. It gleamed with a cold, merciless light, a testament to the darkness within her soul. Days turned into weeks, each sunrise bringing with it the chilling fear of another gruesome discovery. The body count rose, each victim connected by the single red rose left on their chest and the chilling precision of their deaths. Evelyn was meticulous in her work, leaving no trace of her presence except for the terror that lingered in the air. The townsfolk, living under a pall of fear, were prisoners in their own homes. The streets of Ashwood, once bustling with life, were now deserted after nightfall. The killer walked among them, a phantom preying on their fear. Section 5. The Night Watch. Sheriff Ben Carter, a man hardened by years of service but shaken to his core by the escalating horrors, worked tirelessly to solve the case. His eyes, once sharp and vigilant, now bore the weight of countless sleepless nights. Sleep-deprived and haunted by the images of the victims, he pored over the scant clues, desperate to stop the carnage. Each photograph, each piece of evidence, was a haunting reminder of his duty. The pressure was immense, the weight of an entire town's safety resting on his shoulders. Every decision, every move, could mean the difference between life and death. He knew the killer was toying with him, the red roses a macabre calling card. Each rose left behind was a chilling message, a taunt that gnawed at his resolve. Each murder was a carefully staged performance designed to instill fear and taunt the authorities. The killer's meticulous nature made the investigation even more challenging. But amidst the chaos, Sheriff Carter clung to a glimmer of hope. He believed that somewhere within the labyrinth of clues, there was a thread that would lead him to the killer. He would find this monster no matter the cost. His determination was unwavering, fueled by a deep sense of duty and justice. Section 6. Living in Fear. Fear became a constant companion for the residents of Ashwood. The once familiar faces of their neighbors now seemed suspicious, every shadow a potential hiding place for the killer. The laughter of children was replaced by hushed whispers, the joy of their innocence stolen by the specter of the Red Rose Killer. The murders had ripped away the illusion of safety, leaving the townsfolk raw and vulnerable. The fabric of their community, once woven with trust and camaraderie, was unraveling thread by thread. Section 7. The Hunter and the Hunted. Driven by an insatiable thirst for justice, Sheriff Carter threw himself into the investigation. He studied the patterns of the murders, the victims, the chilling signature of the Red Rose. He saw the killer's arrogance, the belief that they were above the law, playing a deadly game of cat and mouse. But Sheriff Carter was a wily opponent, his years of experience teaching him to anticipate the moves of even the most cunning predator. He knew that every hunter eventually makes a mistake, and he was determined to be there when Evelyn Thorne slipped up. Section 8. A Glimmer of Hope. A breakthrough came unexpectedly. A single fingerprint lifted from the stem of a rose left at the latest crime scene. The print belonged to Evelyn Thorne, a recluse living on the outskirts of town. Finally, the phantom had a face, a name. The news spread through Ashwood like a beacon of hope. Could this be the end of their nightmare? The townsfolk dared to breathe again, their fear giving way to cautious optimism. Section 9. The Devil's Snare. Armed with a warrant, Sheriff Carter and his deputies surrounded Evelyn Thorne's dilapidated house. The air crackled with tension, the silence punctuated by the chirping of crickets and the pounding hearts of the officers. This was it, the culmination of weeks of fear and relentless pursuit. As they entered the house, a chill ran down their spines. The air was heavy with the cloying scent of decay and the faint odor of bleach. The walls were adorned with strange symbols, and a collection of silver scalpels gleamed ominously under the dim light. They had walked into the lair of a monster. Section 10. Justice, at last? Evelyn Thorne was apprehended without resistance, a cold, calculating smile playing on her lips. Her capture was swift, almost anticlimactic, yet the sense of relief that washed over Ashwood was palpable. The nightmare was finally over. Or was it? As she was led away, her eyes met Sheriff Carter's, and in that brief exchange, he saw a flicker of something cold and calculating. It was the look of a predator who had been caged but not broken, a look that sent shivers down his spine. Section 11. A legacy of terror. Evelyn Thorne's trial was a media sensation, the nation captivated by the tale of the Red Rose Killer. She was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison, her reign of terror brought to an end. But the scars she inflicted on Ashwood ran deep. The fear might have subsided, but the memory lingered. The red roses of Ashwood, once a symbol of love and beauty, would forever be tainted by the memory of the woman who used them as a calling card for her gruesome deeds. The town had survived, but it would never be the same. The shadow of the Red Rose Killer would forever haunt its heart.